Okay, stop scrolling. I know you have seen the headlines. I know you have watched the breaking news alerts pile up on your phone like they always do. But I need you to actually sit with me for the next few minutes in one place and say out loud. So let us go. On April 3rd, 2026, everything looks exactly the way it always looks. Routine, calm, controlled. And then 300 missiles are already in the air. Not 10, not 50, 300, fired in coordinated waves, aimed not randomly, but at specific hardened structures inside Israel's most critical air bases. By the time Israeli command fully understood what was coming down on them, it was already over. Now, here is what you need to understand about how this happened, because the missiles themselves are only half the story. The attack started with decoys. Hundreds of small drones launched from multiple directions at once, flooding Israeli radar screens, forcing every available battery, Iron Dome, David Sling, every layer of the most celebrated missile defense system on Earth to start cycling through targets faster than they could handle. And while every interceptor was chasing ghosts, the real missiles were already in their final descent. The entire window from first impact to last, 4 minutes. In 4 minutes, 40 aircraft were destroyed or critically damaged. Fuel nodes are burning. Hardened shelter complexes are structurally compromised. And here is the part that reportedly shook Israeli commanders the most. A simultaneous strike hit a second base in the south, the base where Israel had secretly moved its reserve aircraft as a precaution. Iran knew. Not just that the dispersal happened, they knew exactly where, inside that second base, those aircraft had been relocated. Think about what that means. That is not battlefield intelligence. That is deep penetration of Israeli operational security at a level that no official statement has yet honestly acknowledged. By 2:47 in the morning, 30 minutes after the first launch was detected, Israel's offensive air capability, the foundation of its entire regional military strategy for decades, had been crippled. The sky that Israel owned changed hands in 30 minutes. What made Iran's missile different was not one feature. It was 3 features working together as a single, unified strike architecture. The first was terminal guidance. Older Iranian missiles followed broadly predictable flight paths. They could be tracked, their impact points could be calculated. Israel's entire layered defense system was engineered around that logic, built to fight a missile that flies in a known arc toward a general target. This missile did not behave that way. In its final descent, an onboard guidance package activated, combining inertial navigation, radar altimeter input, and an electro-optical seeker that did not simply follow preloaded coordinates. It compared the terrain beneath it to a target model stored in its own memory. It recognized its target environment. It identified specific points within that environment. It adjusted its trajectory in real time during the final seconds of flight. That is why GPS jamming, which Israel employed, had almost no effect. Once the terminal seeker is activated, the missile no longer needs GPS. It was navigating by recognition, and recognition cannot be jammed. The second was propulsion. Solid fuel motors require no lengthy pre-launch fueling sequences, no observable thermal signatures, no logistical footprints detectable from orbit. A mobile launcher could arrive at a pre-selected position, erect, and fire within minutes, then relocate before any targeting solution could be developed against it. The third was doctrine. A single precise missile can be intercepted. Iran did not fire one missile. They fired salvos of 8 to 12 from multiple approach vectors simultaneously, deliberately sized to exceed the intercept capacity of any available battery. This was not luck. This was systems analysis applied to a known defensive architecture. Cold, patient, mathematical. And then comes the conclusion that sits most uncomfortably in every Western policy room. Every component of this weapon, its propulsion, its guidance electronics, its structural engineering, was developed and produced under sanctions. The very sanctions designed specifically to prevent Iran from reaching this level of capability had, in the most strategically complete sense, failed. Sanctions did not stop the weapon. Sanctions were imposed on the engineer who designed it, Marco Rubio said. Iran should have spent its billions on its people instead of weapons. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, looked straight into the camera after Marco Rubio's statement, and he said, "If Iran hadn't spent on weapons, America would have invaded within 48 hours, seized all Iranian oil reserves, and armed the Israelis to create multiple new Gazas." You do not have to agree with that. You do not have to sympathize with the Iranian government to sit with that statement honestly. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, the pattern is documented. The fear is not invented. France has banned arms supplies to Israel. Italy, Spain, Denmark, and Japan have refused to join this conflict. NATO has called it America's war and declined to participate. On March 28th, protests swept American cities. Americans, not foreign agitators, standing in their own streets against their own government's war. And yet, Muslim-majority governments, almost without exception, continue accommodating American policy. So here is the question that needs an honest answer. Why? Because it is not the people. Public opinion from Karachi to Cairo, from Amman to Islamabad, is overwhelmingly opposed to this war. Every poll, every street, every Friday sermon, the people are not with Washington. It is the government. And the governments stay aligned not because their populations demand it, but because their own survival depends on it. American backing, American weapons sales, American financial systems, American diplomatic cover. These are the architecture within which these rulers remain in power. If American dominance in this region collapses, they fall with it. They know this with complete clarity. This is not the compulsion of nations. This is the compulsion of rulers whose thrones are built on borrowed American power. And here is where the story becomes truly historic. Because if the United States does not achieve its objectives in this conflict, if it is forced to absorb costs it did not plan for, withdraw from positions it cannot hold, accept an outcome that looks to the world like strategic failure, then American dominance, particularly in this region, will decline. Not disappear overnight, decline. The way Britain declined after the Second World War, the way France declined, the way every empire that overextended itself eventually contracted, not in one dramatic moment, but in a long, irreversible diminishment that those living through it took years to recognize fully. And when that decline becomes undeniable, the proxy governments that American power sustains, the rulers across the Muslim world and beyond who owe their positions to Washington's backing, will face populations that have been waiting patiently for exactly that moment. 26 generals and admirals were removed from the United States military in 14 months. The Army Chief of Staff, General Randy George, was removed. The same day, the president publicly posted that the military had not even started what it was going to do. The same day, Lieutenant General David Hodney, who ran the command that trains every soldier who would execute a ground operation, gone. Major General William Green, Jr., who led the Chaplain Corps. The men and women who minister to soldiers in their darkest moments, who sit with the dying, who carry home the weight of what war does to a human soul, gone. George decided whether a ground operation should happen. Hodney prepared the soldiers to carry it out. Green prepared them to live or die with it. All three, same afternoon. The replacement for the Army Chief of Staff is General Christopher Leneve, who served as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's personal military aide. He carried the briefcase. He was loyal. And now he signs the orders. The man who carried the briefcase now commands the United States Army. Hegseth additionally blocked 4 officers from promotion to brigadier general, 2 black men, 2 women, by personally striking their names from a confirmed list of 36. When Army Secretary Dan Driscoll refused to remove them, Hegseth did it himself. No hearing, no process, no accountability. Congress has held no hearing, issued no subpoenas. Understand what this architecture means. Every removal serves the same function, shortening the distance between a presidential decision and its execution on the ground. The officers who remain are the ones who did not resist. The officers who resisted are gone. The chain of command has been rebuilt so that every link answers directly to the man who removed the previous link. And right now, as you read this, Marine Expeditionary Units are staged in the Gulf. The 82nd Airborne has been deploying. Special Operations Forces sit at forward bases in 4 countries. The president has named the next targets publicly: power plants, desalination facilities, oil infrastructure, and Karg Island, which processes 90% of Iran's oil exports. Every general who might have walked into that room and said, "Sir, here is what happens the morning after," is already gone. The man now sitting in that chair carried a briefcase 6 months ago. History does not remember the wars that were prevented by the general who walked into the room and said the thing nobody wanted to hear. It only remembers the wars that happened because nobody did. And somewhere tonight, in a secured room in a building none of us will ever enter, a general who still has his job is sitting with the weight of that history, knowing what has been removed, knowing what has been built in its place, knowing what is staged in the Gulf and what has been named as the next target, and what the morning after looks like when a strike on Karg Island activates every network Iran spent 45 years quietly building. Knowing all of it, and asking the only question that matters now: who is left to say no? I am going to leave you with that question, not with fear, with weight. The specific, serious, adult weight of a moment that will be written about long after we are gone. The weight of understanding that we are not spectators to history. We are inside it. Every one of us, whatever country we live in, whatever language we think in, is inside this room right now. The old Middle East is gone. The old non-proliferation order is fracturing. The old certainty of American military primacy is being tested in ways it has not been tested before. And the chain of command that might have slowed any of this down has been rebuilt link by link to ensure that no one in it ever again says the word no. Stay awake. Ask the questions. Demand the answers. Because the people making these decisions are counting, truly counting, on you not doing exactly that. Don't give them the comfort of your silence.